Welcome to the Fit 40 podcast, where we take all the confusing, conflicting fitness and nutrition information and break it down so that you can live your healthiest, strongest, most energized life. I'm your host, Brian Fitzsimmons. Let's get it started. All right. Welcome back, guys. Another episode. Okay. Today we're going to be talking about all the biggest mistakes in nutrition, my top three. Okay. There's some of them you might know, some of them you might not, but hopefully we'll learn a thing or two while we're here. All right. So mistake number one, we're just going to start right off the bat, is cutting carbs completely for fat loss. Okay. Carbs are not the enemy. We want to make sure that we're not cutting them uselessly because there are so many benefits to keeping carbs in the equation. Now, what happens a lot of times when people go on keto or anything like that, they get really excited because there's a lot of fat loss very fast, but it's not fat loss. Actually, it's weight loss that's happening very fast because one, there's not as much water in their system because carbohydrates, which turn into glycogen, bind to water. So that's a whole lot of weight right there. Two, it's that glycogen. Okay. If that glycogen is not in our muscles, in other parts of our body, then that's weight there that we're not going to have in our body in circulation. So is that body fat? No, it's just something that is no longer in our body, which is causing the weight on the scale to drop down. Now, negative benefits when you cut those carbs completely, your workouts usually go to crap. All joy is lost. Pretty much no reason to live if there aren't any carbs in your diet. I'm just going to be honest. No, I'm just kidding. But in most cases, the reason that low carb diets don't work long term is because of that joy factor. Now, when we have a diet that we stick to long term, we want to make sure that we include those foods that we absolutely love. Now, if you come from an Italian family or Middle Eastern family or Asian family that's like based around carbs, like rice or pasta or anything else that has a heavy carb base, which is most cultures. A lot of cultures do come from a carb heavy background because carbs are cheap and they feed a lot of people. Okay. Now, that being said, obesity is pretty new. So we haven't been having this issue of widespread obesity for the past 2,000 years like we have right now. And carbs have always been in the picture for the majority of populations because, again, it's cheap and it's easy to cook, it's easy to mass produce, and it feeds a lot of people. Okay. Now, when we include carbohydrates in the equation, we also have a better long-term adherence. And that's the name of the game when it comes to longevity, is picking something that you can do for a very long time. Now, if you're always thinking, oh, when this diet's done, finally I'll be able to eat that cookie, finally I'll be able to eat pizza, then we're just setting up for a gigantic binge and bringing all the weight back. But if you allow yourself little indulgences along the way and you're not restricting yourself so terribly that you're so focused on food, then you can stick to it long term without going down that road of binging. You could just say, this is part of my diet. I had a little bit this day, or I went off track for one day and I bounced right back. It's not this grand buildup that all of a sudden we've finally hit that finish line and now we're going to go back to the way things were because that we didn't have a plan. Yeah, that was pretty much that on the carb train. I won't go too much on a rant, but if you love them, keep them in. If you don't, not a big deal if you keep them out, but make sure to keep them in for performance sake because the workouts can benefit from that. Okay, now the next goal is going all in. And what I mean by that is when everybody starts their diet, the first thought is, I'm going to do this perfect. I'm going to do it 100%. I'm not going to miss a day. Everything is going to be to a T. I'm going to make this absolutely perfect. So there's nothing wrong at all. But when we start with that mindset, then it feels like any time we have a little bit of a slip up or anything like that, the whole plan is shit now. Like the whole plan is lost. But I know there's some mentally strong people that are able to get over that. But the sad truth is a lot of people are not capable of bouncing back from that, because when there's that first taste of failure or that first taste of slipping up, it's like it usually goes downhill. And it doesn't really recover from that point until we get back to that point where we're so sick of where we're at that we start all over again with that all-in mindset. And then the exact same thing happens again. Okay. The best thing to do when starting a diet or just trying to improve your health is to start small. Pick that one or two things that you know you can implement immediately and that it wouldn't be a gigantic stress on your life, because that's also a very big factor that people don't take into account. If they've got family stress, if they've got work stress, if they've got other stress like clinical level anxiety or depression or things like that, and now you're throwing stress on top of that with your diet, then that's not a good setup either. We don't want to just add to the stress stew, that stress soup, and make it something that is so unmanageable that you just end up quitting. Okay, you want to make sure that what you can do or that what you plan to do is very easy to implement going forward. And then let's say that one step or that those two steps, you're eating protein at every meal and you're hitting your water goal. Awesome. Eventually, after doing that for so long, it's going to be part of your day. It's going to be part of your life. And you're going to be able to say, you know what? This is pretty mindless at this point. I can do this with relative ease. And then that is when you add on something new. And then you do the exact same thing and you follow that habit. Okay, you just keep doing it until it's a part of your life and it's pretty easy. And then you add something new. And then that's how you steamroll, or that's how you snowball a bunch of really good habits over a lifetime that'll serve you very, very well, that'll keep the weight off, that'll keep you strong, that'll help you feel incredible, and hopefully keep you out of the doctor's office if you don't need to be there. Okay, other than your annual. Okay, we don't skip doctor's visits here either. Okay, but that's pretty much the spiel on all in. And then last but not least, the biggest mistake a lot of people make is trying to do it themselves, not getting help. Because when you're trying to go somewhere you've never been, how do you know how to get there? You need a guide. Okay, it's the same way I make the analogy of climbing a mountain a lot. Like if you're looking at Everest and you're looking up and you're like, I'm going to climb that thing. Try going straight up and see how that feels. Okay, it doesn't usually work out for the people that go straight up. Okay, they usually fall flat on their butts to their death, but we're not going to go that crazy. Okay, you need somebody to tell you got to make a left here, you got to go right here. Oh, watch out, it's a little unstable here, so why don't we wait a sec and then move on. Okay, it's a lot like having a tour guide or a adventure guide. You want somebody to be able to let you know when you should go left and when you should go right, and when you should be weary of certain things, or if a certain path looks really inviting but it's not the right path. So that could be something like some fad diets, like the egg diet or the wine diet or something like that, that looks all shiny and new. And it's like, well, that sounds awesome. I read it in a magazine. I'm going to give that a try. That's where a professional steps in and says, I can tell you like 10 reasons why that's really not a good idea. Okay. Or let's say that you catch the bug and you're like, yes, I want to do this all day, every day. I want to do the hardest workouts imaginable. I want to be eating paleo, clean, 100%. And you're like, you could do that, but it might not end that well. Like you might run yourself into the ground. You might be a little deficient on certain things. You should probably include this, this, and this. So having somebody to be there in your corner and just let you know, hey, I've been there, I've done that, I've helped people do that, I've helped like many people navigate this route, is worth its weight in gold, because then you don't have to worry, am I doing this right? You don't have to worry like, is this the right thing for me right now? Because you have somebody that's done that and said, hey, when this has happened for like the other 20, 50 people, we usually do better doing this. And then for you, that's probably the best situation to be in. So those are my biggest three. To recap, we got, don't cut the carbs, don't go all in or nothing. And then last but not least is get some help, because having help is always worth it. And it's always going to take way less time and be way less annoying down the road. And you're setting yourself up for a better result, because the people that have done it before usually know how to keep it off forever. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode and you're a new listener, go ahead and hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss another episode. And if you're a returning listener, I would love your feedback. If you could take 2 seconds to just leave a quick review on iTunes or Spotify and rate the show, that would be greatly appreciated. So thank you in advance and have a great rest of your week.